Good morning. Today is a bit of an overcast day, which is nice because it's a bit cooler out. But I'm on my way to a service call here to change the anode rod and also to change out a PNT valve for a customer. The anode rod I don't believe has been changed in a while, and the PNT valve seems to be leaking according to the customer. So we're gonna go check it out and hopefully get them taken care of. So on the topic of water heaters, if you have a Suburban water heater, you need to change the anode rod, or at least check the anode rod at least once a year, depending on where you are situated. So if you're in Florida, like we are, there's hard water, and the way that Suburban water heaters are, they have a steel tank, and by default the hard water will corrode and eat away at your tank. So Suburban puts in a anode rod as a sacrificial piece of metal, so that way the hard water attacks the anode rod and not your steel tank, which would lead it to corroding and eventually getting a hole and then leaking, and then you would need to replace the whole hot water heater. So you need to at least check the anode rod once a year, and if you're checking it, you might as well replace it because they're not super expensive. So here at the campground, this is the campground we're at. I got the golf cart loaded up today. Today we are going to be working on a Newmar Dutch Star. This beautiful green one right here. Alright, so we're here at the water heater, and this is the outside of it. This is a Suburban water heater, and if we open this up, ta-da! Here we go. Here is the anode rod down here that we're gonna replace. So, get our socket, get our extension. Let's get this baby loose. So one thing I did is I turned the hot water heater off and ran the hot water heater to drain as much of the hot water out so I don't burn myself taking this anode rod out. So check it out. This is the anode rod I just pulled out, as you saw. Look at it. This is what was in the tank, and this is what it's supposed to look like. Look at that huge difference. So again, the original one and the new one, what a difference. And you see how this one is basically corroded, missing. It's exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a sacrificial piece of metal so the hard water eats at this and not your steel tank, and then you don't have to replace your steel tank. You just have to replace this, and you should check it at least once a year. So we're gonna go ahead and put this new one in. This one is actually an aluminum one. There's aluminum and there's magnesium ones. And the advantage of aluminum is if you're in an area with a lot of hard water, such as Florida, the magnesium can react with the hard water and cause a sulfur smell. whereas the aluminum does not have that downside. So that's why this client decided to go with aluminum over magnesium. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this installed, get the hot water heater fired back up, and should be good. All right, so this is in. I'm gonna keep the PNT valve open to let it fill up, and once it starts coming up, close it, and we should be good. Make sure we check for leaks. So we had to turn the water hose back on. I had the PNT valve open so at least would fill up some. Then we needed to close the PNT valve so the pressure could build up inside the tank. Opened up the kitchen faucet so it would complete the circuit, allow the water to flow out. Got all the air out of the lines, and you can see here, if you open this, there's pressure. So now originally they were asking me to replace the PNT valve as well because it was water coming out of it. But talking to them, the PNT valve is fine. It just said the PNT valve was weeping because these tanks needed an air bubble on the top, and I'm guessing at the last location they were at that there was no air bubble, so when the hot water expands, it got somewhere to go, so it comes out of the PNT valve. Whereas now it has that air bubble, and so now the PNT valve, the pressure and temperature valve, is no longer weeping. So this is good to go. Again, here is the new anode rod installed. It's just wet because I had the valve open a bit, but it's not leaking. Hot water heater's working again, and we're done.